Hey, Romy friends, Rita here with my brother Jack.
Hi.
And we are here to tell you about our pilgrimage out to New England, where we were inspired to go visit museums from our favorite childhood illustrators.
Yeah. So what did we do? We flew into Boston and rented a car and hit the road.
That's right. And so the two illustrators that we were really trying to see were number one, Edward Gorey, and number two, Ed Emberley. And so then there were some bonus illustrators along the way. But we hit the road from Boston, and it's basically 2 hours out to Yarmouth, Massachusetts.
On Cape Cod.
Yeah, and that's where the Edward Gorey house is.
Yeah, so this guy, first of all, he's this illustrator who does these like black and white pen illustrations. Very sort of dark and kooky, and you might know his Gashly Crumb Tinies, very similar to the Addams Family, but definitely not Charles Addams from the Addams Family.
Right. Although we're pretty sure that they must have had a feud because their styles were similar and they came up around the same time. So stay tuned for the separate podcast we'll be recording on their feud.
Yeah.
But like his museum was great because it had all sorts of like fun collections and artwork from when he was a kid. And this guy is also famous for wearing like these fur coats all the time, which, you know, as he grew older in life, realized like that's pretty terrible to wear fur coats, to the point where he became an animal lover and decided to let the raccoons
stay and hang out in his attic. So he became a landlord for wayward raccoons.
Yes. And he also had some other fun things framed.
Yeah, he had a waffle from the diner up the road framed in his kitchen, and then all the receipts from the diner. He was a real collector. Some might say a hoarder, but just an eccentric.
Eccentric.
Just like the caretaker who gave the tours there. A real wild card, and we loved it all.
So put Edward Gorey House on the map for yourselves. Real good times. And then we did stop for a tasty lunch in Yarmouth.
Yeah, the Lighthouse Keeper's Pantry just up the road. And then from there, we ended up driving into Newport, Rhode Island, which is about 2 hours away.
Yeah, and so Newport is real charm balls. And we stayed at this Hammett's Hotel. Mm-hmm. Sidebar, we also decided to run a 5K while we were there.
Yeah.
And really the highlight of the 5K was getting these donuts before the 5K.
Allie's Donuts in Kingston, Rhode Island. Cash only. Cash
only, but get extra crullers.
Yeah.
You will not be disappointed.
Great road trip fuel, and certainly great for carbo loading before a 5K in the middle of a Rhode Island office park.
So from Newport, we then did another 2 hours east to Amherst, Massachusetts, which is the home of the Eric Carle Museum.
Of picture book art, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so Eric Carle is the illustrator and writer of the Very Hungry Caterpillar. And what's amazing about his artwork is that illustration is actually done by a process he created where it's basically tissue paper that he painted and drew on and using crayon. And so it's just an amazing process that you learn about while you're there at the museum.
Yeah. And so this museum is great because there's like a rotation of all of these other sort of kid-lit illustrators. And while we were there in April, they were featuring the artwork of Ed Emberley, who you guys might know from the Learn How to Draw books.
Oh my gosh. And I remember as a kid, like going to the library and getting these books, and they're amazing because basically Ed Emberley showed kids how to draw using basic shapes. And so whether it's trucks or dragons or chickens or whatever, they all start with very basic shapes. And so for a kid like me, that's what inspired me to think like, oh, I can learn how to draw.
Yeah.
And so I have very fond memories of poring over his books and learning from him.
Yeah, it was great to see all of his other artwork too. Just so intricate and really beautiful. And what a fun way to sort of, cap the trip, our sort of illustrator heroes in New England trip. What a fun adventure for us.
Absolutely. So just like as we close this out, we have frequently done road trips together. And so there is, listener, a fun fact that we would share with you, or like a little tip. So when we're on the road, we often try to play games or listen to podcasts. So one of the games that Jack created was around roadside signs.
Yeah, so all you do is when you go by a side on the highway that has like two cities, like say Fairfax and Ogdenville, you ask the other person in the car, what's the high school mascot for each of those different cities? And they'll tell you, and then you decide which high school will win the Crosstown Classic. It's stupid, it's ridiculous, but it just sort of keeps your mind active while you're on those long highway drives.
That's right. So the Fighting Frogs and the Fighting Hogs might have been the high school mascots of those two towns.
That's exactly right. And go Hogs. That's my pick for the winners. Very good.
All right, Romy friends. Thanks for listening. We hope you get out there and explore.
Yep. Bye.
Cheers.